Hello, this video is about what are the SEO principles. In this video, I'm going to talk about the fundamental SEO principles that you really need to keep in mind while doing SEO. And these, for the most part, these are going to be valid for years to come. So my name is David Hood, and I've made well over $1 million online, mostly with SEO. And I'm on a mission to help 10,000 people make their first million online. So let's jump right into it. So first of all, you want to think about Google's objectives here. One of their primary objectives really is to answer a searcher's query. So you want to keep that in mind when you're trying to understand why they act in a certain way and to also predict their behavior. And they want a quality searcher experience. So they don't want to give someone a poor experience. So for example, these two things together combine for one of their major updates, the way they deal with like duplicate content. They don't so much penalize duplicate content as they pick, if there's two articles that are trying to rank for the same search phrase, they'll pick one and show only one, because they don't want to serve up the same article to twice to someone. Okay, and they're thinking about the searcher experience. But they also want to make money with their advertising. I believe about 90% of their revenue comes from the ads you see in the search results. The ads on other sites, I don't think that is a significant portion of their, it's a much less portion of their revenue. Pretty much all their money comes from people clicking on ads while in their search bar. So that's also why the ads have taken up more space over time, and so that's something to keep in mind. And I think that there's probably going to be some diminishing returns. There's going to be a point at which if they try to reach too far on that, if they just made, let's say for example, they made like 2 pages of ads at the top, at some point people are going to stop using Google and they're going to lose market share. And so there's kind of a balance that they're bumping up against. And so we'll see. I'm sure that they're going to try to push that balance and see how far they can go. So keep that in mind, that they are trying to sell advertising. And they also have an objective to essentially catalog human knowledge. And this is part of the reason why you see the results when you compare 20 years ago to today. There's a lot more richness to it. There's a lot more variability. This is part of what they, like their knowledge graph. They try to display, like if you ask Google a question, instead of serving up search results, a lot of times they'll just kind of answer the question for you. So for example, how much do blue whales weigh or something like that? They're going to just answer the question for you because they think that they can and they want to. Okay, so Google is an algorithm. A lot of people think that Google is this super advanced AI that like gets everything and looks at things from like a super complicated, almost like a human level. And while that is one of their objectives, and that's what they would definitely like you to think, they're still an algorithm that is not nearly as sophisticated as people think. Just 5 years ago, they were just like super, it was super dumb. And it's still not like super advanced. Okay, so keep that in mind, that basically by and large it reads text. It reads the text, the code on a page. That's where the vast majority of their decisions are made, based upon this text and code that they read on the page. And so keep this in mind. Google can't see, they can, in a way they can kind of see, because they can see a lot of the data on how visitors respond, but they can't tell if your image is crap or if it's good just initially. Now, if visitors are, as soon as they see, if you have analytics installed on your site, and as soon as somebody sees an image, they go back to the search results, they can see that to a certain degree, and so they might be able to make the conclusion that the image is bad. But at the same time, that it's not going to be a part of their initial decision-making process, and ultimately there's going to have to be a really strong signal pointing that they're not going to be able to see that the image is completely is sort of irrelevant. Yeah, they can tell, like they can tell the difference between an orange and a house. And so if your page is about houses and you have oranges on there, well, they're not going to know for sure that that's irrelevant. But there are certain things that they can see, like they can tell when something is porn or something. So just really extreme cases they're going to be able to read. So that's why they can kind of read images and videos, sort of. They can tell to a certain degree what is going on, but they're not nearly as smart as they would like. A lot of people think of the algorithm as sort of like a pie chart, in that like you like, it's like 17% this and 47% this and 13% this or whatever. But really it's more like a complex decision tree where there's a bunch of little decisions that it makes and forks in the road. And so you want to keep that in mind when someone says, oh, you need to do, these are the 213 ranking factors, so you got to deal with all of them. No, some of them are significantly more, exponentially more important than others. Some of them you might not even become a factor because it's not looked at, because you go on a certain part of the algorithm and they just don't even check it. So technically it's a ranking factor, but in reality it's not. So Google isn't honest about how to rank, and part of this makes sense. I'm not blaming them for this. If they were to come out and be like, hey, this is exactly how to rank your website, it would kind of diminish the value of their algorithm to a certain degree, and their business. And so I don't blame them for being dishonest, but just keep this in mind, that when they say something is, when they say something about their algorithm, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Or, you really have to consider their perspective on it. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily lying, but they're not being completely honest. An example of this, their search console, the Google Webmaster Tools, is really, really poor. I have multiple case studies where the data in there is just flat wrong, and not a little bit wrong, not like off by like 5%. We're talking off by huge amounts, and not internally consistent. Like the one place of Google Search Console, the data will say one thing, and another place it'll say something completely different. I haven't really found that to be true with analytics, Google Analytics, and so I would say you can use that with quite a bit more confidence. But I would not put any stock really in the data of the Search Console. It's just wrong a lot, and I'm not the only one that notices this. I don't know if this is an intentional dishonesty on their part, so much as it is maybe they just don't care. I'm not sure they really care if it's accurate or not. Okay, so they give a lot of misinformation and they give half-truths. So some things that are technically true, but it's not really accurate. So keep that in mind. For example, like content is king. This is something that is circulated on the internet, and there's some truth to it. Having good content does matter, okay, from an engagement standpoint. But just because you build great content doesn't mean you're going to rank. Okay, so there's an important consideration there, and there's a lot more to SEO than just building great content. Content marketing is content marketing. Content marketing is not SEO, and this is probably one of the biggest myths out there that they've helped spread. It can help, but it's not everything. Okay, so 3 buckets to focus on: engagement SEO, which is sort of having good content. When Google sends you a visitor, you want to engage that visitor with relevant content, and if you don't, then they're going to bounce back to the search results, and Google will see that, and that's bad for you. On-page SEO, this is like what's going on your site. This is pretty simple, like your domain name, the titles, the URLs, and a few other kind of like on-page factors. Keyword density isn't real. Actually, the text on the page in the article from an on-page standpoint matters basically not at all. It matters from an engagement standpoint, but it doesn't matter from an on-page standpoint, if that makes sense. And then off-page SEO, this is a huge part of Google's algorithm. It has been since the beginning. Their algorithm is largely a popularity contest. When another website links back to your website, it is like a vote of confidence. So it's a critical factor as well. I've got other videos on these as well, so go ahead and check those out. I'll try to link to them below to help understand these specific things. But if you focus on these 3 while keeping kind of these considerations in mind up here, then you'll generally be on a pretty good path. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as well. If you have any questions, please put a comment below and I will respond. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.